In the configuration settings, we can send themes, how the invoice actually will look like when we send it to our customer. So we can change the template, we can add a logo, for example here. I will upload the logo. If you want to select different margins or names, you can simply amend it and save. Let's go back to settings. Now here we've got sales invoice options. So sales invoice options will be automatically included in our sales invoice. How we want to be paid. For example, we want to be paid as bank transfer. We also want to include the contact name with the company on top of the sales invoices. Any additional fields that we want to change, we can add them here. So maybe we want to have a different name, sales invoices, credit notes, or purchase order. But essentially it's been defaulted, and so you don't need to worry about changing the name. Discounts can be automatic or manual. So here you can change it to manual if you want to overwrite the discounts. Packing slips. If you're dealing with sending goods and items, you can also amend how to call these particular items, packing slip, or perhaps you can rename it to deliver notes or so forth. Payment online option is also can be available. So if you decide to use PayPal, for example, the customer will have an option to pay online with the PayPal. Once you're happy with this, click Save Settings. Now for the sales quote settings, we can also make changes either in the name, or we can also select in how many days we expect this quote to expire. And if you want to assign the category, once you convert it from sales, perhaps you don't want to create the sales invoice straight away or send it. So you can send it as a draft, negotiation review, or perhaps lost one. If you don't want automatic change, just simply leave it as don't change. And if you need to copy sales quote reference field to the purchase order, for example, you can also do this by selecting copy. But I highly recommend just to leave it as it is, and then when you need it, you can always add this as an option manually. Save settings. Under stock options, we have our inventories. So of course, we can have various options available. We will look more into the management features in the stock video. There's also project settings. So if you're working with projects and you would like to know how much is actually made from the project after completion, if you have any work in progress, you can also select work in progress calculation project pages and save settings. We will look more into project in details when we work on the project itself. VAT settings, of course, if we're VAT registered in the UK or elsewhere in EU, we can also set up our number. Is my turnover over 85? Yes. Would I would like to report monthly, quarterly? Which are my reporting months? They're important. Calculation, is that calculation on a tax online total or individual price unit? So I would say tax on the line total. So once you have calculated all items, you will be taxed on the top of all the amounts. If, for example, you have various items, so some VAT item would be reduced and some standard, so I highly recommend to change it to B, a calculation on individual pricing. VAT rates, if you need to add another reduced one or so forth, you can simply add a VAT rate here in this column. Now, if you're using cash accounting scheme, you can also select cash accounting option. Or if you're using the flat rate scheme, you can also select and system will automatically calculate VAT for you. Save settings. If you're working with construction and you need the reports to be sent monthly, you can also select CIS option. Under advanced settings, important is to have a log date. So that means after this, no transactions can be amended. So the warning will appear, let's say we don't want any changes before 31st of December. If we run a business before we transfer it to KashFlow, we want to start from scratch. So I would highly recommend to use the log available. Any advanced VAT settings, for example, VAT reconciliation, I would highly recommend to leave as default. Now we'll look into purchase options. In the purchase options, we have extra reference field in each purchase. If we need, for example, label permit or PO reference. Save. Email templates. So KashFlow will automatically send reminder statement to your customers. If you would like to amend the email, click on the statement, for example, and amend the email directly for here. Once you're happy, say, dear, your statement is in touch, kindly pay within agreed time. Save template. That's how you change the template sent to your customers. Next, we have purchase order settings. So under purchase order settings, we can again change the name. We can also change the time until the purchase order is valid. And here, converting purchase orders to purchases, it can do it automatically to either draft, review, or send. Based on my experience, when it's automatically done, it sometimes can be lost. And so it's best always to do it manually, especially for quotes and purchase orders. So leave it as don't change. And don't copy the purchase order reference, because it's always better to double check and make sure your reference correspond within a purchase order in your purchase, especially if you have one purchase order and a few purchase invoices. Save settings. Custom customer fields. I personally haven't used any text fields, but if you have any Skype details, perhaps you would like to use Skype for your client. Asset register categories for your fixed assets. To create additional category, you simply create category, name it as machinery, for example. Here you would say machinery used by the company. And then you need to select straight line or reducing balance for your depreciation. And of course, if you're using straight line, say 12 months, or you're using reducing balance by percentage. The balance sheet code, so we need to select what this machinery will be. So it's already preset, so we just need to choose plant machinery depreciation, create a category, now last but not least, if you're using mileage settings and you're tracking your business mileage setting, you can also claim VAT, and you need to select account which corresponds to it. For example, fuel. If you have any other pocket expenses for that, you can also select, for example, prepayments or cash on hand. Then you need to select what car or petrol the vehicle is, and how many how big is the engine size. So now we can track the mileage automatically for KashFlow. If you're switching accounts between KashFlow accounts, you can simply select account switching. Customer supplying settings refer to your contact. So if you need any extra field in your customer records, you can simply create, for example, Skype, or perhaps you need an extra field for attention of, for example, an update. Automatic credit control, it will be sent when invoices overdue. And so from Happy Celebrations UK Limited, and here you have the customer kindly send the payment within 10 working days. Send time, you can also set up time, probably best after lunchtime. And if you want to enable to new customers, you can also enable to the option and select address, which will not be visible, to ensure that it's been sent. Receiving payments, although we talked about this before, you can select payment providers, which are third-party providers such as Gorkhalis by direct debit, or WorldPay, which you can accept by a special card machine from WorldPay, Square, or PayPal. So you can also set it up directly through KashFlow, and you'll be able to accept the payments as well. So we looked at the navigation. There's quite a lot of different options available on the KashFlow. So we'll be looking into those options more in details when we go through the sales, purchases, and buying.